Hello, and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. We are continuing our Pioneer series. We're all the way to Kaladesh now, Jake. Can you believe it?
I'm excited to be here. We just let our Saheeli cat go.
Hey.
The Felidar Guardian is off tormenting the dog. So, yeah, let's get into Kaladesh. It's important to note about this series. This is a series where we are not picking the Saheelis and the Torrential Gearhulks and the cards like Chandra, Torch of Defiance that are already, $15 or more. Instead, we are talking about cards that at this point, so many cards have started to spike that these are going to be cards that are like $5 to $6 or less.
Right.
Nothing super expensive.
That's absolutely right. As we get into the cards, if you wouldn't mind, hitting like, hitting subscribe on the video. If you're logged in, if you're not logged in, just sit back and enjoy.
Yeah, just hang out. It's probably your weekend, or I don't know what day it is.
Yeah, whenever you're watching the video. Regardless, let's start off with Brockling Hydra. This was one of my picks. Brockling Hydra is coming in as a 4-cost, 4/3 creature that can give itself hexproof. I normally wouldn't pick a card that has to do with a specific mechanic that was a one-off in one set or block, but Brockling Hydra itself can give hexproof and make itself a 5/4. That's why I think it's got some validity.
Yeah, the fact that it can give itself that hexproof is obviously why it's on the list. The card was huge when Temur Energy was around in Standard.
Absolutely.
I don't know, the Temur Energy Temur Winter, where every deck was like 4-color energy or 5-color energy, or Scarab God is in there somewhere. But
Yeah.
No, this is a great card. If energy ever were to take off in Pioneer, hands down, this is going to be included.
Right. It's going to blow up. It absolutely is going to blow up. Let's move on next to Consul of Allocation. This is one of my favorite cards. This was a card that hosed my Turbo Fog deck around Kaladesh time. This was a card that I have played in EDH, and normally it just sits there and sits there and sits there, and nobody wants to use a removal spell on it. And suddenly it's done 40 damage, and I'm at 50 or 60 life, and everybody's like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's the 2/3 just chilling."
It's the 2/3 that's just chilling. It's such a great Orzhov Dark Council kind of card. Like,
oh, yeah.
This guy definitely works in DC. It's just like it's such a good card, and it's wonderful sideboard hate.
Right.
So yeah, I mean that's what we really have to look for. I mean, when your opponent saw you playing Turbo Fog, and they knew that they had this in their board, I'm sure they were just like, let's just get to game 2.
Game 2 and 3 are gonna be dope. Yeah, it's definitely a sideboard card. It is legendary, so it's never gonna be more than like a 3 of. Maybe if you just know that your only weakness of your deck is non-creature spells, and you're in black and white, it could be a 4 of, because it'll get removed. But I think it's a sideboard card, but I know that it has definitely hosed me in the past, and I think it will hose people in the future. Next up, Animation Module.
Yeah, Animation Module. This is a card that it's just when it came out, people were into it. They were like, this is exciting. It never really took off. But I think it's one of those cards where it's so cheap. It's like 79 cents. It's like $1, something like that. And it's a cheap, low-cost artifact with a unique ability. And so for that reason, that's why it's on the sleeper list, is Pioneer is wide open. So a card like this, it's just, somebody might figure out a way to make it do something, and then all of a sudden, it's spiking.
Yeah, absolutely. You see cards like this. You see the 2-cost reach flash creature in Standard right now that has the when something happens, pay X. In this case, 1. Create a 1/1. You also have cards coming up later like the enchantment that will create 1/1s, and that is the kind of card that people will build around. Next up is a card that is near and dear to my heart, Bombat Courier. I can't tell you how much I tried to spread the religion of this card. Nobody was in on it. And then suddenly, I know that it feels like in Standard we've had a mono red deck be good for like ever, but it's only been about a year. And Bombat Courier was the one drop when that deck first broke out before the set rotated.
And another thing that's important to note is right now, as we've been doing this series, we've been doing it for a while now, and we're starting to see how Pioneer is starting to shake out. And Bombat Courier is played in the red lists, and the problem with Bombat Courier is the fact that, and the reason it hasn't spiked is because it was printed in Kaladesh. And in Kaladesh, it was the first time that we have the Masterpiece Inventions. It's the first time that we get all these beautiful new versions of swords and countless other things. And so the set, like Battle for Zendikar and like Oath of the Gatewatch, was opened in mass. But, so it's just something to think about, like, moving forward. But it's a card that, again, 79 cents to $1. It's pretty much a staple in mono red. If aggro ever really takes off, I mean, look what the card does. You discard your hand to sacrifice it, and you put all cards exiled with it into your hand.
That's exactly right.
It's very good. It's card advantage in red, which everybody wants. That's the whole point of burn, is you have to stay ahead. You have to just make sure that you're burning them down.
That's the exact thing that you want in red, is something that's going to refill your hand, and Bombat Courier absolutely fulfills that role. Next up is Scrapheap Scourge. Jake, remember when they wanted this banned in Standard?
Dude, this card is so, yes, in Standard it was kind of a menace, but it is so fair for Pioneer.
Right.
And it is one of these cards that, again, it's a 3-2 for 2. Like, let's go, dude. Like,
2
come on.
mana for a 3-2, can't block, who cares? You're playing it in aggro deck anyway. That you can pay to exile a creature from your graveyard and bring it back to the battlefield, not even to your hand.
Oh yeah, and if you're playing this in the right build, you don't care that it can't block. Yeah, no. It is just it's redundancy. That's why it's good. It's the fact that you can utilize that graveyard, get the card back, and again, like, it's so crazy because Kaladesh had all of these masterpieces printed, and the set was open so much that this is another card that's extremely good, extremely useful. Look at the casting costs, and again, it's like $1.
Yeah, it's so cheap. It's so cheap. Next up is Padim, Council of Innovation. I'll tell you, I absolutely got rocked by this playing against one of our buddies in EDH. They had a Padim artifacts deck that just went off. You think it'll make a splash in Pioneer? Dude, I
do. It's a very reasonable cost. It's obviously nothing like Urza, which is played in Modern, but it's a really cool card. I like the butt on it as well. Most likely you're going to have to use 2 burn spells to kill it, if not hard removal. But the fact that it gives your artifacts hexproof, if artifacts were to ever take off, I think it's one of those cards that you should consider.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the butt is notable on this card because Lightning Strike is going to be a thing, I would assume, or better. And so you're going to have to deal with 3-butt creatures can get killed very easily. Speaking of 3-butt creatures, how about one that has an ETB where you don't worry about it getting killed because you already got the effect off of it?
Yeah, that's the reason I like the card. You know, 4 cost, it digs, it's velocity, it's a great card. Again, this is another card like Padim that we just saw that operates as a commander as well. So in your back pocket, if it never were to take off in Pioneer, there's still a chance that it's like, oh, well, this is a very good playable card. And you know what? Who knows? It may take off. This is a card, again, like 79 cents, $1, something like that. It's cheap and it's good.
Yeah, that's the exact point I was going to make, is that Gonti and Padim both have commander protection. And from a finance standpoint, there's nothing better than commander protection. Because
yeah, I mean, like, the foils of these are like, $4 to $5.
Right.
So it's like, that's the kind of thing where, like, you know what? I'm going to pick up the foils of this. And then, that's when in Pioneer, like, something takes off and now your foil has, like, quadrupled in price, because that's kind of like what ends up happening if it ends up being played a lot.
That's exactly right. The same thing as picking up a 50-cent to $1 rare and hoping it kicks off in finance. You're going, oh, it's never going to get lower than that. With Commander, any card that goes $1 to $3, then it's never going to go lower than that. So you've got some, you got a little back-end protection.
Yeah, exactly. When I look over like this, it looks like I'm looking at you.
Oh, hey, wait. When I look at, I'm like, hey, Jake, what's up?
Yeah, I should put a picture of you over there. That way I can look at you and be like, yeah, Joel, you're right, man.
Actually, yeah, you're on my screen. You're over here, and so I can look at you while you talk, and it's like I'm looking at you.
It's like we're having a cathartic reunion.
There we go, cathartic reunion. This is a common, Jake. Why is this on our list?
Because we're talking about foil prices here, and this is the exact kind of card that is a huge enabler in Modern and in Dredge and in like Hollow One and decks that have been played. The common commands a price point of like 50 cents. If that tells you anything, most of the time commons are super cheap. But the foil of this, if graveyard strategies really take off, and we do realize Leyline of the Void is a thing.
I mean, Phoenix decks are a thing.
Yeah, this is the kind of card that will show up in Phoenix decks or in any kind of Dredge strategies. You play this alongside Prized Amalgam. In Dredge, like it's just one of those cards. It's a lot of velocity. You discard your stuff that needs to be in the yard, and you profit from it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That brings us back around to Bristling Hydra and to the end of our Kaladesh discussion of Pioneer Sleepers. Thank you so much for watching. Like we said, if you are logged in and not just chilling, if you wouldn't mind clicking a button down there, we'd really appreciate it. If you want to support us further, we've got a Patreon. The link is in the description below. That's the correct sentence. And don't forget that we are streaming on Twitch twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday nights. I'm tapped out. Jake, you got anything else?
I'm trying to wink for these people.
I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you right now.
Hey, calm down.
You calm down.